News for my video game, Europa Universalis 5? I love it! That's right, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video, we're going to be going over Tinto Talks number 103 from the 8th of April 2025, where we will discuss the latest and greatest changes coming to EU5 version 1.2 that's due to release this month, the next month, or the one after that, and the fate of the Phoenix DLC that will be coming alongside it. In previous videos, we've discussed major changes to Byzantium, but in today's video, ladies and gentlemen, we've got major changes coming to the free patch, mostly related to the economy, to trade, to buildings, to cities, and a new type of urban location, and more. Very exciting, awesome news, and this is a pretty beefy dev diary. So without further ado, let's jump in and see how EU5 will be way better in the next couple of months. All right, here we are in Tinto Talks 103, posted just yesterday by the main man himself, Johan, and let's just go ahead and jump right into it, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to a happy Wednesday, the day where we talk about what's happening to EU5. As we mentioned in a Tinto Talks last year, the EU5 team is at any given time working on one of three different tracks. I love the 1 and the 3 here, both being spelled and just the number. We have people working on a new DLC. Excellent. We have people fixing bugs and problems that need to be fixed immediately, and we have a group of people working on a bit more long-term issues with the game, similar to the custodian team on Stellaris, providing bigger fixes and updates to the patches. Yeah, like I've said many times, man, you know, I'm sure some of you guys are new to following game development and stuff like that, and I'm sure it can be frustrating for a lot of you that aren't familiar with the process, being like, why are they dropping a DLC? Why don't they fix the bugs? It's not one guy, man. It's not one guy. I've said it many times. It's not like if they're working on a DLC, they're not working on the bugs and stuff like that. So just lay off. These guys are doing the best, and they have a very, very high passion for this game. And yeah, as you can see, everything is being done all at once. Don't you worry. Things will get sorted. But moving on, of course, if a developer has been busy making stuff for a new update as part of custodians, then they are then supporting that with bugs fixes until all is clean and fine. It's not handing off to someone else. While Saint Dave has been handling Fate of the Phoenix, I've been handling the development of the accompanying patch. Okay, let's see what it's all about. So what has been the focus then for this patch? Well, for me, it's been economy, military, and diplomacy. Really, the three pillars of, well, any EU game. While also improving the UI to bring more content, to be more visible, as you saw some of last week. We've also been working hard on improving immersion, both in AI behavior and how the world is set up. Let's talk then today about all the economy-related changes that are coming to 1.2. Yeah, let's jump in. So first off, we have urban rights. Now, this is sort of a completely new concept being introduced to the game, and from what I've read through this, they are going to be really, really nice. This is not something that's going to be OP or change your game in a crazy way or something like that, but it's a very welcome addition, and you'll see what I'm talking about right now. So, urban rights are legal privileges you can grant to individual towns, cities, and megalopolises. What is that? More on that later. Within your realm. Each right shapes that location's role into your economy. Royal textile rights might boost cloth and dye output at the cost of general production efficiency, while a staple port grants trade monopoly status and boosts maritime presence. Many starting rights in 1337 are tied to your country's culture or region. German territories can have access to the Magdeburg or Nuremberg rights that encourage migration and merchant growth. Iberian rulers have access to various fueros, and Scandinavian rulers can grant Bergslag or fishing privileges to their ports and mines. So we're taking a look at this right here. Flemish cloth industry for Ghent. We have urban rights. So for Ghent, specifically that location, boom, look at this. Plus 25% trade capacity, only minus 5% production efficiency, but we have 5 more levels of cloth guild buildings and fine cloth guild buildings, and the burghers have more trade capacity as well. Obviously lost when conquered. Now, as we can see, to revoke it right here, it's 10 stability, so you might think not that bad. We'll get into this pretty soon. So slightly worse at producing things in the town, but you can have far more cloth and trade more. So honestly, you can see the benefits right there, you can see the trade-offs right there, and keep in mind, this is only per location, so it's not like it's gonna have a crazy impact or something like that. It's probably not even gonna be something you do everywhere. It might be, we'll see, but it is a very nice and welcome change nevertheless. Now, granting an urban right costs 5 government power, legitimacy, contradiction, blah blah blah, but revoking one is far more painful as it costs 10 stability and will deeply anger the burghers who've lived under those privileges. Most rights are also lost when a location is conquered, so enemy rulers cannot simply inherit your carefully built legal framework. Some rights are mutually exclusive with others in the same location, so you need to choose which economic identity suits each city best. Managing your urban rights is a core part of shaping your realm's economic specialization and regional identity over time. A town can have 1 urban right, while a city can get 2 urban rights, and capitals have 1 more available. So yeah, this, man, once again, it's just to say it, really quickly, it's a very welcome addition to playing tall, especially, you're playing a small country, let's say, you start off as Holland, build up into the Netherlands, you're playing tall, only expanding in that certain region. Obviously, you're going to want to do these things, on a per town basis. And guys that like to, people that like to finick with those things that, like to have everything optimized in every little location, this is an awesome change for playing like that. If you're running a huge, massive empire, man, let's say, the Great Yuan or Ming or someone like that, you got all of China, you won't really be messing with these things too much, aside from your most important, I would say, I don't know, 5 or 10 cities or something like that. But once you scale the economy so much, they are going to become less relevant, I think. But for small countries and for playing tall and for people that really like to min-max, this is really good. So, moving on from that, during the Age of Discovery, you'll also gain access to many new urban rights that allow you to diversify your economy significantly. So we got naval supplies rights right here for tar and naval supplies output. They pretty much all cost production efficiency, right? Kept when conquered. Interesting. So yeah, these are kept when conquered. Textile rights for dyes, cloth, and local fine cloth. This is going to be OP for Italy. This is going to be crazy. Weaponry rights, weaponry, firearms, cannons, output, production efficiency. So you get the deal printing rights, probably for books and stuff like that. So yeah, these are some of the selections available in the later part of the game. Yeah, as expected. So that's been it for urban rights. Let's move on to trade orders, probably one of the most exciting and cool things that have been introduced in this update, and something I think people have been asking for a pretty long time. Not me specifically, I would have been fine without this, but with this, oh, it's just amazing. So, trade orders let you tell the AI, basically the game, the automation, exactly which goods to import or export from a market without micromanaging individual trade routes. Oh, amazing. Amazing. I'll give you real life examples, but let's just keep reading through this. When you set an import order, you allocate some of your merchant capacity to automatically bring that good into your market. The AI finds the cheapest available source each day. An export order works the same way, directing the AI to push your surplus goods out of the most profitable destination it can find. Orders are fulfilled first before any remaining merchant capacity is used for general automated trading. So they act as standing priorities, right? That it'll do that thing first. You can set multiple orders across different goods, and if there isn't enough merchant capacity to cover all of them, orders higher in the list get served first. Simple. You can always change around the priority of your trade orders. Each order shows you the trade route the AI is currently assigned to it, along with the profit it's making. If the AI can't find a profitable route on a given day, the order will keep trying. It won't simply disappear. You can cancel any order at any time, which returns its merchant capacity back to the general automation pool. So, manually importing wool from Oslo to Bruges. So yeah, the UI will list the 5 biggest import needs, not orders, with 5 biggest export possibilities, so you can quickly set up your own. Yeah. So to give you a, a real life example of this, man, let's say you're playing something kind of far off with an isolated market and stuff like that. Let's say you're doing Iceland or Greenland or something like that, right? You're super far from these things. You're not trading a lot anyway, and you want to build something up, and you got automated trade, obviously, and you're like, oh well, not enough books, let's say, to build up that in that market. Okay, so now you gotta go do the manual trades. You're losing money on this mega, but you need to get the trades in, so you're canceling automatic trade. You're doing this, you're doing that, you're waiting for months to take over. Like this, it's simple. Oh wait, I need books to build this up. Let's import some books. The game will do that for you. Once you build that up, you're like, okay, don't need to import that many books anymore. Go back to whatever you were doing. So this is going to be very helpful. Realistically, unless you're, for me at least from my playstyle, unless I'm lacking something to build something, I generally don't do these things. But obviously, you know, you can, once again, this is very suited for tall playthrough. You're focusing and specializing in a certain industry, you know, you want to do the max, blah, blah, blah. That is going to be awesome for that. So that's just some real life examples, at least from my playstyle, but this is really, really good. So it's sort of in between, you know, manual and automatic trading, but I like it quite a lot, man. I like this quite a lot. Now, moving on to something else that's really, really cool, Megalopolis. You know, the latest Francis Ford Coppola movie that flopped. It's also in my video game, Europa Universalis 5. So, Megalopolis is a new pinnacle city rank sitting above city. City rank sitting above city. Say that 5 times. Reserved for the true giants of the medieval and early modern world. Only your capital can reach this status, and only if it has already grown to at least 400,000 inhabitants and functions as a market center. Requirements that make it a late game achievement rather than a routine upgrade. I am very, very satisfied with these you know, requirements. You shouldn't be able to go and spam these all around, right? 400,000 inhabitants. I like that quite a lot. Capital, of course, makes sense, and a market center for the, you know, prestige from a roleplay perspective. I like these requirements quite a lot, and I think they're perfect. The 5-year construction project demands 4 times the glass, masonry, and lumber of a standard city upgrade, but the payoff is substantial. Doubled population capacity, doubled free building levels, and a second construction slot, and dramatically higher pop attractiveness across all strata. Awesome, awesome. I love all of this. Megalopolises do carry real drawbacks. What are they? Integrating newly conquered territory into their area is significantly slower, and the sheer weight of the city makes it harder for armies to move through, reflecting the logistical reality of managing an enormous urban center. At the start, only Constantinople, Cairo, and Beijing started this rank, giving you a sense of how rare and historically significant these cities are. Yeah, makes sense. Maybe there's a couple of other ones. Maybe Constantinople doesn't deserve to be in, but I'm sure you guys know more about this than I do, but I'm pretty satisfied with that. Now, going back to integrating newly conquered territory into their area significantly slower also makes sense. Why would you have not already conquered the entire area in which this megalopolis will be located by the time you make a megalopolis? So it makes sense that this, you know, modifier is there, but will anyone realistically face it by the time they get to build up a megalopolis? No, I don't think so, but it's good that it's there. Why not? Due to the high cost and high requirements, only a small handful of cities will ever be able to become megalopolises throughout the game, keeping it reserved for only the most special locations in the world. So yeah, there's Cairo. We can see, you know, the effects from Megalopolis right here, basically, you know, stuff we just mentioned. So yeah. I like it quite a lot. Speed of integration minus 75%. Oh, wait, no. Wait, am I understanding this? No, integrating newly conquered territory into their area. So, is this once you conquer it, the speed of integration for you? Or newly conquered territory in the area that it's in? Now I'm confused. But that's okay. That's okay. But yeah, that's a big city, man. Let's move on from that. Yeah, that's the only thing. Because now I see this, and it looks like this is for it, right? I guess it's 2 different ones, isn't it? Yeah, 2 different ones. Okay. Now moving on to something I'm not sure about. Honestly, I guess we'll have to see how it works out in real life. But court cost change. Now, court upkeep used to be a simple fixed percentage of your economic base, and modifiers changed that with a straight plus or minus percentage, which made each thing impacting it insanely harsh or beneficial. Now it anchors at a firm 10% of your economic base, so kind of like stability, and a whole ecosystem of modifiers, advances, government reforms, laws, and inflation push that percentage up or down rather than replacing it outright. This makes the base cost predictable and readable. You'll always know the starting point, and you can see exactly what each modifier is doing to it. Inflation was one of the more punishing contributors, scaling court costs upwards alongside diplomatic spending and fort maintenance, so letting prices spiral has compounding effects on your administration. Tough. The 10% floor cannot be reduced to 0, ensuring your court always demands a slice of your economy regardless of how efficient you govern. That completely makes sense. Yeah, that completely makes sense. I just wonder if in a real life situation, you know, in an actual game, how the starting situation changes for an example. But I guess, you know, we'll have to wait and see. once we play this patch, how it impacts it. Now, moving on to a little bit about buildings here, ladies and gentlemen. Colonizing nations can now erect a colonial administration in their overseas territories, converting distant possessions into genuine trade assets. Back home, a new line of urban buildings traces the arc of early modernity from Renaissance leading through the Age of Discovery to absolutist governance, steadily concentrated control and crown power in your hands. And for the first time, war carries a sharper economic bite. Select buildings can now be torched, letting occupying armies or rebellious populations leave lasting scars on the land. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to get a lot more defensive, man. And you know, here's a show off of a new building, local council, plus 10% local crown power, max control plus 2.5%, which is it's nice. It's nice. Yeah, I like it. I like that. Moving on a little bit to expanding RGOs. Expanding an RGO now costs more if the good it produces is highly valuable. Grain field is cheap to grow, while a spice plantation demands serious investment. Yeah, this totally makes sense. I never realized that it's not like that, but yeah, that's awesome. The cost scales with the goods' default market price, meaning high-value luxuries like silk or ivory will require significantly more ducats to expand than basic supplies. This makes early-game RGO expansion more accessible for common agricultural goods, while creating a meaningful economic decision around whether the revenue from a lucrative RGO justifies the steeper upfront cost. The expansion cost breakdown tooltip now shows exactly how much the goods' market price is contributing to the cost, so you can see at a glance why one RGO is more expensive to scale than another. Yeah, so base cost 50 minus 33% due to the cost of the goods, blah, blah, blah. From default market price of gold increased a little bit. So yeah, makes sense. I agree with this. I think that's how it should be. Now, moving on to a more major change right here for the starting world. And this is something I like quite a lot, and I'm sure you guys will like quite a lot as well. So, starting a new game, major cities in the world now have a production profile reflecting what made them historically famous in the 14th century. Venice dominates glass and naval production. Florence is the cloth and dyeing capital of Europe. Damascus produces unrivaled weapons with fine silk, and Samarkand anchors the Silk Road with its paper and luxury textiles, just to name a few. Rather than every Italian or Germanic city being identical, major trade hubs like Bruges, Lubeck, Cordoba, and Novgorod each have distinct economic identities that create real regional specialization from the start. These differences mean that controlling, trading with, or conquering these cities carries tangible economic meaning tied to their real historic role. Regional cities around the world now better reflect their documented 14th century economic identities. England's towns produce more cloth and leather. Iberian cities are renowned for fine merino wool and Cordoba leather. And the lowlands doubled down on the dyes that made Flemish cloth the luxury fabric of Northern Europe. Moving on even further, there's so much they're letting us know right here, and I absolutely love it, man. The Levant is now a center of bladesmithing and silk weaving rather than a generic trade hub, while Korean cities finally produce the Celadon porcelain that Chinese contemporaries consider the finest in the world. India's glass production has been corrected from an absurd level to a historically accurate low. India imported glass, not exported it. Distilled spirits have been quietly removed from the Russian, Polish, Balkan, and Baltic towns where vodka and rakia simply didn't exist yet in the 1330s. Really? I didn't know that, but I guess it makes sense. Well, you know, they can still make vinegar, I guess, with distilleries and stuff like that, right? So yeah, makes sense. When you load into your starting bookmark, estates across your realm will now already, and this is one of my favorite changes, have a meaningful number of estate buildings constructed. Nobles will have their mansions, clergy monasteries, burghers their trade posts. The amount built is proportional to each estate's balance, so wealthy estates in prosperous countries will show the most development. On top of that, most rural locations throughout the world now spawn with a village at the start, which is also awesome. Maybe we won't starve as much at the start, giving a much more lived-in feel to the map from day one. Together, these changes mean less micromanagement in the opening years, yes, and a more historically grounded starting economy. Yeah. So this, I think, one of the most important changes that's been showcased in today's dev diary. You guys know that in this recent patch, you know, a lot of countries start losing money right at the start. So you got to delete a couple of buildings, delete a couple of forts and stuff like that. It's not really a problem. You get it up and running in just about a year or two. You know, depending on how rich you are, your estates start building stuff. You start expanding RGOs, building stuff. But now that there will be more stuff, where there needs to be, you know, like all the estate buildings and stuff like that, and the farming villages, and also guys producing and doing what they're supposed to, I feel like this is really kind of the fix. of the, you know, of the little starting economy woes that we have. Obviously, some countries have it more than others, but this, man, you know, estate buildings being already there, you know, let's say you start off with poorer estates, they won't immediately be able to build stuff, but, you know, obviously they already have stuff. So this, I think, is going to be a great change. And I think, you know, with this, just reading off of it, man, most countries shouldn't start off by losing money. But even if they do, you know, once things tick over and start to work, yeah, I think this is awesome. This is a really good change. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of the changes to the starting world. Now, let's take a look at goods changes. This is another short one, or actually not that short, but look at this. Very important. Precious goods are now less dominant. Gold has dropped from 10 to 8 ducats, silver from 8 to 6, and elephants from 10 to 5. These were simply too powerful as economic anchors, crowding out other trade goods. Yeah, I agree. I agree, man. I agree. They were too powerful. I feel like these changes are good, probably about the right level. This is, of course, a pretty big hit to Bohemia, which can instantly become mega rich and stuff like that. You guys know how powerful Bohemia is, man. You know, in the hands of the player, obviously, it's not that much of a difference. So, although it could be, but in the hands of the AI, it definitely should be a major change. I support this. Glass now has a more meaningful role. Its base price rose from 2 to 3. I agree with that. I would make it even a little bit bigger, honestly. And nobles, burghers, and clergy now actively demand it, making glass making a more viable industry rather than a niche luxury curiosity. Yeah, I like that. I think it can be bumped up a little bit more too, but that's okay. Books became cheaper. The base price fell from 5 to 3. I also agree with that. They should be cheaper, better reflecting that book production is a mid-tier manufactured good rather than a premium export. Raw materials are cheaper to move. Transport costs for iron, copper, tin, lead, and lumber were halved from 2 to 1, and stone from 5 to 2, meaning inland producers of these bulk goods are less penalized by the distance to the market. This is actually very nice. This is actually very nice. I like that. Unemployed peasants now contribute to raw material markets. Stone, clay, sand, and lumber each receive 0.1 base production per unemployed peasant, giving underdeveloped regions a small economic floor even without dedicated production buildings. Yo, that's actually really good. That's actually really good. I wonder if it might be too powerful for certain places that have a big population, but I guess we'll have to see. Although it is 0.01 only, so probably not. But that's actually really good. That's actually really good. I really like this change. Yeah, this should help with the economy even more. I actually like that quite a lot. Cool. The demand for key trade goods now shifts meaningfully as history progresses. In the early game, spirits, tobacco, coffee, and tea are barely known outside of the regions of origin. Your distilleries and plantations will find limited markets, and prices reflect that scarcity. As the ages turn, the world wakes up to these goods. Coffee houses spread from Istanbul to Amsterdam. Tobacco becomes a colonial obsession. Sugar transitions from an exotic spice to a near staple, and tea goes from a Chinese curiosity to the backbone of the British colonial trade. By the Age of Revolutions, demand for all 5 goods has roughly doubled or tripled from their medieval baseline, making late-game plantation colonies and trade routes far more profitable than they would have been in the 14th century. The Age tooltip now shows these demand shifts in their own dedicated section, so you can plan your economy around what the world will want next. Yeah, awesome. Awesome, man. So far, everything we've read is so good. I'm so excited to just get into it, man. I'm just so excited. I love all of these changes. I just love it. The economy is great for right now. I enjoy the economic aspect of the game quite a lot, but with this, I think we're going next level, man. Now, a little bit about changes to, you know, viewing goods and stuff like that. The location view now has a dedicated goods tab together with the infrastructure, military, and demography tab, giving you a production analytics view for that specific province at a glance. For each good produced at the location, you can see which buildings are generating it, their combined production efficiency, factoring in both countrywide and local modifier, you know, with the stuff we mentioned all the way at the start, you know, the urban rights thingies. Let me just scroll back down to where we were. There we go, and the total output volume that flows into the market. So production efficiency is surfaced as the key metric, exposed as a percentage, so you can immediately spot where investment or policy changes would have the most impact. Market prices are shown alongside a trend indicator, letting you judge at a glance whether a good is currently undersupplied or oversupplied in the market the location belongs to. The tab also breaks down into the wealth and income it generates, giving you the economic story behind each commodity rather than just raw production numbers. That's really good. Buildings are displayed as small icon cards directly on the goods row, and if more than 2 buildings contribute, you can get an expandable count, so tracing exactly where production comes from is a single hover away. Every column is sortable, so you can rank goods by efficiency, output, price, wealth, or income, depending on what question you're trying to answer. All values are backed by full breakdown tooltips, meaning the goods tab doubles as a diagnostic tool when you're trying to understand why a province is underperforming economically. So we have all of those things right here that we just talked about. This, once again, especially at the start of the game when you're starting out, and if you want to min-max and playing tall, once again, I think this is a really, really good benefit from it. Or like you're going to be checking this in your capital, obviously, but once again, as you grow bigger, as you scale your economy even more, these things are going to become, less and less relevant as time goes on, as you grow bigger territorially as well. But like I said, for playing tall, playing small countries, people that like to min-max, this is another awesome change, and I really like that, man. Yeah, we're gonna have to do some more tall playthroughs once the update rolls around, boys. It's gonna be fun. Now, some changes to the population. Actually, like, really big changes. So let's see what it's all about. So, one of the most fundamental changes in this update is how populations grow and evolve in EU5. Previously, all population growth was entirely on peasants, and getting other pop types was driven entirely by promotion, right? So, the nobles, the burghers, well, especially the clergy, they weren't making the bebe. It was just peasants, moving up to different strata of the society. So, pops moving up the social ladder from one type to another. We've now given each pop type its own organic growth rate, meaning peasants, burghers, nobles, clergy, and tribespeople all reproduce and expand naturally over time, independent of promotion. Slaves are the exception. They remain a coerced population whose numbers are determined entirely by the slave trade and forced migration, not by natural increase. There are different reforms and other things that impact the growth of specific types of pops. So yeah, 2 new laborers were born, right? That's the image we're getting right here, and obviously we can see the growth rates and stuff like that. Because pops now grow organically, promotion has been dramatically scaled back. The rate at which pops change type is now 1/10 of what it was before. That's actually a really big change. I wonder if we're gonna have to focus more on promotion modifiers, or I guess we'll see though. That means the composition of your population will feel much more stable and historically grounded. You won't see your peasantry rapidly converting into burghers simply because you built a market, which honestly kind of makes sense. Speaking of burgers, I love them and they're delicious and tasty, but in the game, we've rebalanced their relationship with urban buildings. Burger-dependent structures now require roughly half as many burgers to staff. That's good. I actually like that, but in exchange, those burgers now wield double the political power and contribute a larger share of tax revenue. Okay, half as many, I like that, because burger buildings are probably some of the most important buildings in the game, man, at least for money making. So doubling their political power, shoot, I mean, when you play a Trade Republic, I just did Hamburg the other day, man, we were maxing like trade offices. Burgers had like 75% of the power in the country, but makes sense that they do contribute a larger share of tax revenue, so that I like, but this might be dangerous. We'll have to see. This makes a smaller, well-established merchant class genuinely impactful, rather than requiring you to pay to pack every city with tens of thousands of tradespeople before buildings become meaningful. I like that. Yeah, that's pretty good. We've also connected labor markets more directly to social mobility. When a region has a surplus of work, more jobs available than workers to fill them. Enfranchisement will now increase up to 20%, reflecting the historical reality that labor scarcity gives common people leverage to demand rights and freedoms. Yeah, I like that, man. Some really good changes so far. Finally, food consumption modifiers are now collectively wired into the food storage system. How were they wired before? Effects that alter how much food your population consumes will properly influence the food storage bonus to pop growth, meaning efficient agricultural policy and a trade in foodstuffs will have a real visible payoff in population expansion over the decades. Yeah, I wonder though if, some markets are starving so often, if this is going to impact that. I guess we'll have to see, but once again, awesome changes. Now, there are quite a few changes over here to the trade system overall, which is pretty in-depth, as you can see right here. So, all of these things, man, when you take a look at, certain things in isolation out of the things they've talked about, sure, you can be like, oh, this is great, or I don't like it, or I like it, or whatever. But keep in mind that all of this, needs to work together. And I think that's exactly how it's modeled. So, we'll examine that now through the trade system overhaul. So, the trade capacity system has received its most comprehensive rework yet, touching everything from how routes are costed to how capacity is consumed and how automation behaves. The biggest architectural shift was replacing the old hard-soft range cap with a continuous cost curve. Routes no longer get hard blocked at a certain distance, which means pretty much you can trade with every market, but the further you go in trade, the more expensive it is, right? So for example, let's see, I don't know, you're somewhere in Scandinavia, let's say the Riga market, and to trade navally, you go all the way around, but at the start, you can only reach Italy. Now you can technically reach everything, but actually trading with someone like the Mamluks is gonna cost an exorbitant amount. So, but instead accrue a scaling path cost penalty the further they stretch, giving players a meaningful economic trade-off rather than an arbitrary wall. Alongside that, we've wired maritime presence directly into path cost calculations. A strong naval presence along the route now reduces its transport cost, making sea power feel genuinely useful for trade rather than just a defensive stat, which is very nice. And yeah, here we can see some changes to those modifiers, the maintenance for the trade out itself, what you're buying, what you're selling, the total profit, how much capacity you're using. This is very nice. Moving on, to complete the maritime loop, navies now contribute maritime presence upward to their overlords, so colonial powers, and this is really important, and subject holding empires benefit from the sea control their subjects maintain. This is absolutely awesome. This makes building a distributed naval empire feel rewarding in a way that the older system didn't support. We also have the distance penalty for sea routes, specifically reflecting the historical reality that pre-modern bulk goods moved far more cheaply by ship rather than by land. So yeah, that's awesome, man. Especially the fact that subjects will now, especially colonial subjects, will contribute to maritime presence and all of these bonuses related to trade. Now, trade capacity costs were reduced globally, which gives players more room to operate a diversified trade network without immediately hitting the ceiling. A change that should make the mid-game feel less punishing while the player is still building their burger infrastructure. The sound tolls income was reined in to bring it in line with other strategic choke points, since it had become an outsized source of revenue that destroyed the game balance around controlling that single location. I don't know if I agree with this, honestly. I mean, at least in the early games, sure, they did make a decent amount of money, but it was not anything, super crazy. I feel like, at least. I don't know. But yeah, if they made this change, I guess it was warranted. I guess, once again, we'll see when we actually play it. On the production side, the produced in market modifier has been removed from production efficiency entirely. It was a hidden penalty that made local production less attractive in markets with active trade, working against the intuitive expectation that a well-connected market should be a good place to produce goods, and its removal simplifies an already complex calculation. Very nice, straightforward. Several long-standing bugs were addressed. The trade detail panel was showing a stale cached values rather than live data. This is too nerdy for me, which made it hard to trust the numbers you were reading. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Trade automation had reliability problems where orders were being incorrectly canceled or not created at all. Yes, this we know. Undermining the whole point of the automation system. The precious metal export ban was also accidentally blocking legitimate domestic intermarket transfers, a critical fix since gold and silver movements underpin the entire monetary economy. I honestly didn't even know about that. Fair play. The local goods demand tooltip now surfaces a breakdown of how many pops of each type are wealthy enough to demand a good, giving players a much better visibility into why a market is or isn't consuming a particular commodity. That's actually awesome. This kind of granular feedback is especially valuable when tuning town setups or deciding where to build production. Yeah, I like that as well. Yeah, not even the Byzantine nobles are rich enough to afford fine cloth time to reduce their taxes or the prices of goods they want. We'll see about that. The old trade efficiency modifier has been retired, interesting, and replaced by 3 direction-specific modifiers that more accurately model what actually happens in a trade transaction. So you got selling efficiency is the direct successor and multiplies the sell price for all trades regardless of direction, and is what most generic burger bonuses, trade focus laws, and commercial culture advances now grant. We also got export efficiency, significantly reduces the buying costs on export trades, goods leaving your market to a foreign one, making it the natural home for bonuses tied to outward commercial reach, things like trade company privileges, certain naval laws, and advances for historically export-oriented culture. Yeah, very nice, very nice. I actually prefer this, I gotta say. It's like one thing has been broken down into 3 different things, but it's also not the same thing. So I'm actually a fan of that. Let's take a look at the third one. Import efficiency instead reduces the buying cost of cross-market imports, and it's used for penalties and bonuses that reflect how well an economy absorbs foreign goods. Tariffs like auto modifiers being an isolated economy, or conversely having a strong mercantile infrastructure that lowers procurement costs. The roughly 200 script sources that previously used trade efficiency were each audited and reassigned to whichever of the 3 modifiers best matched their thematic intent, rather than being mechanically split evenly, so the distraction carries real design meaning rather than a cosmetic rename. Yeah, I can say that I am a fan of this. It does complicate it slightly, but I feel like we'll get the hang of it pretty soon. So yeah, overall pretty great changes to the trade system, man. I especially like, the whole distance thing, that, you're no longer hard capped, and the fact that, trade efficiency has been broken down into these other modifiers, which once again, increases the granularity, like I said, and may make things more complex. But hey, there's more stuff to min-max for all the min-maxing lovers, which is always welcome. I do think, once again, man, I say this after every one of these, sections that we've read. I'm very excited, and I really, really want to see how all of these things work together. But aside from that, moving along, man, we got a little bit about burger trays right here, because we obviously know sometimes these guys are too powerful and stuff like that. So let's see. The market summary panel now shows a dedicated burger trade capacity figure, yes, with a full breakdown tooltip. Yes, excellent. We can see what these guys are actually doing, so you can see exactly how many trades your burgers in that market are generating and what is contributing to that number. The tooltip correctly scopes to the player country when viewing a foreign market, giving you your own burgers as contribution rather than the market aggregate. This is very nice. Sometimes you actually do want these guys to be powerful, man, depending on, how much you can extract from them in taxes and stuff like that. But the local trades per burger bonus on the marketplace building chain has been dramatically increased. Interesting. The base marketplace from 0.2 to 1, merchant quarters from 0.3 to 1.5, grand marketplace 0.4 to 2, and commerce center from 0.8 to 4. Those are pretty big boosts. Those are pretty big boosts. Okay, making investment in trade buildings feel meaningfully impact rather than marginal. The port authority also received a smaller bump from 0.1 to 0.25. The ledger's market tab now indicates a burger trading column, so you can compare your burger trade output across all your markets at a glance. Yeah, I actually like this quite a lot, man. I actually like that quite a lot. I feel like maybe, hopefully, we'll no longer need to spam these buildings to get anything meaningful out of them. So, I guess, once again, we're gonna have to see. And finally, the final section right here, ladies and gentlemen, on the AI and the economy. Some of the changes we have made to the economic AI include that the AI trade and economy system has received a number of improvements to make it behave more sensibly over time. Markets should no longer swing wildly between glut and scarcity, as price trends and surplus signals now work together to keep supply stable. AI rulers now weigh their people's welfare when making trade decisions rather than chasing raw profit, and will actively seek out goods their craftsmen need as building inputs. Colonial power should better recognize the export value of plantation goods. That's awesome. And slave workforce shortages are now treated as a welfare signal that prompts importing labor. We've also fixed a significant amount of bugs related to the economy system in the game, including 3 rather important changes that could be described as bugs, exploits, or design flaws. First of all, temporary demands added by events or other effects are consumed last after everything else instead of first, so this doesn't cripple economies but instead drives up prices as intended. Perfect. This is actually, I don't know, maybe I remember it because I showcase all of these events in my videos and stuff like that, but this is actually something that really happens quite often, so I'm glad about that change. Secondly, while bankruptcy destroyed armies, deleted buildings, and did other bad things to your country, it never touched any construction queue you had. Now, though, when you go bankrupt, your construction queues are erased. Makes sense. Bankruptcy more punishing, as it should be. I hope it'll be easier to get out of a bankruptcy loop, though. I guess we'll have to see. And finally, only the construction at the tops of a queue that could progress will add their demands to the market. Stay tuned. Next week, we'll be back with some discussions on improvement to the military system, logistics, and some new concepts we're bringing in for 1.2 and Fate of the Phoenix. So yeah, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A pretty beefy economy and trade focused dev diary right here by Johan. This might be a little too long of a video, and I know I didn't usually break down and give my opinions on stuff in this one, but this is because, this dev diary has just been straight facts. We're doing this is added, this is that, as opposed to the, a couple of previous ones where we theorized about some things. how could they work, and things that were added specifically for Byzantium. So less theorization and more explanation in general. But honestly, man, I'm not seeing anything negative here. All of these things that I've seen in today's dev diary, one by one, seem really awesome, both the economy and non-economy and the trade and non-trade related stuff. But like I said many times, I'm really excited to get my hands on this this update or this DLC. I don't know if myself or other creators will be getting access for this maybe early, I don't know, a month, a week or two or something like that. I haven't been told anything, so of course you guys will know when I know. But yeah, I'm excited to get my hands on it, man, and seeing how all of these things work together in tandem. Just doing a regular game. Let's say you're playing, I don't know, freaking Naples. You play Naples for 100 years, do everything regular, nothing crazy, and then you compare the economic situation to in the new patch. Same thing, Naples for 100 years, you do everything regularly, and I'm interested to see how things will develop, whether you'll be making more money, less money, is it going to be easier and stuff like that. So yeah, excellent changes, man, and I'm excited for next week's dev diary, which I will be doing a video on the day that it releases, as opposed to today, which is one day after. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about all of these changes, man, especially on the trade stuff that we mentioned. I think that's one of the most important things, and also the starting world situation where things already exist at the game start more rather than not existing and then just building them up. And hopefully most countries won't be broke when the game starts. But I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up, man. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see more videos of me covering EU5 1.2 and Fate of the Phoenix news. Leave a like if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. Subscribe for more news content like this. And yeah, that's it for me for now. See you next time.